camp is camp. It's tough, but it's for me to want to push myself. This is what I do. This is what I live for. I'm ready for battle. I feel like I'm getting stronger, and I feel by the time the fight comes, I'll be at peak performance.
One more. One more. Beautiful. Good. That's what we've got to bring him on to. Nobody can take that.
It's unbelievable how far and how wide sports can take you and the things that you get access to.
Anthony Joshua has officially begun the first day of his training camp ahead of his upcoming showdown with Jake Paul, targeted for December 19th. With the fight now confirmed, Joshua is wasting no time, entering camp with sharp focus and the confidence of a former heavyweight champion. Meanwhile, Jake Paul, despite his controversial rise from YouTube celebrity to professional boxer, has proven he can draw massive attention. But this time, he steps in against a seasoned powerhouse with true world-class experience.
The second leg of the training camp. I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling refreshed. So yeah, come inside, have a look what's going on. Tough training, tough lifestyle, rough and tough. But listen, how else would I want it? I love it. So what am I bringing differently? I wouldn't say a new mindset, but definitely like a new perspective. But ultimately, everything new has to lead to a win. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now, is just winning. With training camp, it's grueling, like there's no doubt about that. But you just need to have a clear mind and be optimistic and run towards challenges every day. And that's how I'm able to get through, is just the perspective I have on what suffering looks like. There's a certain standard that one has to have if they want to achieve certain things. I am working past efforts, measures that I set out for myself. Yes, it's tough. Yes, I'm tired.
Mike Coer has reported that the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight is finalized for December 2025 in Miami, set to stream on Netflix as a professional heavyweight bout.
Earlier that Anthony Joshua still didn't have an opponent for his next fight, but he was thinking of still fighting before the end of the year. And we've got some breaking news for you now, because we're hearing that AJ is in talks with Jake Paul over a deal for a heavyweight fight in Miami next month. Of course, the YouTuber Paul has already fought the former heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, and beaten him. And he's now in talks with Anthony Joshua with a view to the two of them fighting in Miami next month.
News Costing Style says Eddie Hearn has pushed back on those reports. He confirmed the fight, but emphasized it will be held under full Queensberry rules, not as an exhibition. Hearn ruled out modified conditions such as larger gloves or shorter rounds, stating they will use standard 10-ounce competition gloves, agreed rounds, and the standard professional boxing framework.
Ring Magazine, Anthony Joshua, your man, and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a December heavyweight fight in Florida. True or false?
I mean, the gun was jumped a little bit and fired early. There have been conversations. For us, we were flirting with the idea of having this little 8-round fight this year. Not with Jake Paul, by the way, because he was fighting Gervonta Davis.
Yeah, that's not.
But we were going to go on a other card somewhere. You wouldn't have really heard of the person we were going to fight. But AJ wanted to go through the motions, wrap the hands, and just gear up to what is really in the works with Turki Al-Sheikh, which is 2 fights in 2026, and that includes Tyson Fury. That's the plan for Turki Al-Sheikh. We received a phone call from Nikisa Baldirian, from MVP, who, by the way, we've spoke to a few months before talking to us about the fight, and he said, look, would you want to fight Jake Paul? And I said, listen, I don't want to just be a publicity muppet for you, telling everybody that you offered the fight to Anthony Joshua. If you're serious, we can discuss the numbers, and if there's a chance for us to run out in December and, take care of this bloke and get him out of the boxing world and make several tens of millions in the process, of course, we will consider it. And that's basically where we are at now.
And do the numbers stack up?
Of course, I mean, it's difficult to have this conversation. I think sometimes you just...
Speaking to Sky Sports, Hearn clarified that they are not interested in exhibitions. If Jake Paul wants the fight, it will be a real professional contest at a contracted weight. However, he also cautioned that the deal is not completed yet. He described the chances as 50-50, saying there are still many conversations that must take place.
Extremely dangerous for Jake Paul. You know, I've got the general feedback is the boxing world saying, please, AJ, go in and evaporate this young man from the boxing world so we can all get on as normal. You've got Jake Paul fans thinking bizarrely they can beat Anthony Joshua. And the most bizarre thing out of everything is that Jake Paul genuinely believes he will beat Anthony Joshua. I think that's the only reason we're going to see this fight, but I truly believe you're going to...
Hearn described Paul as crazy enough to chase this fight, despite Joshua being a legitimate heavyweight monster, highlighting the enormous payday awaiting both fighters. At the same time, he stressed the severe risk of matching an inexperienced Paul against the seasoned Anthony Joshua, calling it a catastrophic mismatch that could end Paul's career literally or figuratively.
Paul Anthony Joshua 50-50 fight, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I just said in another interview, great if it is. I mean, if it is, then you've got no problem seeing it. But when AJ, I mean, decapitate's a strong word, but you know, when he renders Jake Paul unconscious like he did to Francis Ngannou, don't then say, oh, well, it was Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when AJ beat Francis Ngannou, Ngannou just had a fight that could have gone either way with Tyson Fury. Then AJ Polak'd him and everyone just said he's just an MMA fighter. You know what I mean? Jake Paul's not Francis Ngannou. But as I said before, if you want to see Jake Paul exit the boxing world...
Hearn also acknowledged Paul's strategy of calling out professional boxers who bring massive financial rewards.
Just quickly, I watched Jake Paul the weekend. I feel a bit dirty saying that because I'm not a fan of his, but he did say after the fight that he's sort of having DMs or he's dropping text messages to AJ. They're having a chat about a potential fight. What's your view on that, Eddie?
Well, look, he's calling out Gervonta Davis, who is a 135-pound lightweight, and he's calling out Anthony Joshua, that's a heavyweight monster. I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul. Hopefully not literally, but it's that dangerous that, you know, it's a fight that I don't think should really happen, if I'm honest. I would say about Jake Paul, and I've said this in a couple of interviews today, I do think you start after giving him a margin of respect. You know, I think this guy is going through the motions. He's putting the hard spars in. He just went 10 rounds with, yes, a washed up fighter, but a former world champion that did train for that fight. But they're very clever in terms of the opponents that they pick. They're not going to gamble unless the money's out of control. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jake Paul, wanted to move forward with an Anthony Joshua fight. Honestly, AJ's coming tonight. He's not exactly looking at Jake Paul going, oh, that's my dream opponent. Would he go in there and give him a hiding for, you know, a massive chunk of money? Probably. I'd be saying, yeah.
Simon Jordan has admitted that despite his criticism, the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight could actually benefit boxing in certain ways. He believes the matchup will attract worldwide attention, bring millions of new viewers, and create substantial financial opportunities. Jordan noted that boxing is also a business, and a fight combining a former heavyweight champion with one of the world's biggest digital entertainers is guaranteed to generate money, media coverage, and mainstream interest. While he still questions its competitive legitimacy, he accepts that commercially, the fight could be a major win for the sport.
This is the entertainment business, and Anthony Joshua is an entertainer, and you can't undo the fact that he won the world heavyweight championship twice. And he fought in some great fights.
So why does he need this?
Because he's in the business of entertainment. And if an opportunity is presented to him and someone wants to say that we can monetize this to the huge levels that are potentially available, why wouldn't you? It's a walk in the park.
You see, you're not having Saturday night.
Because I know
many people wouldn't have this.
Well, I'm not having...
Because this isn't a proper fight where a Saturday night is.
But I don't think this is a proper... I don't think that I would ever consider having a debate about whether Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul is a proper fight between two bona fide champions. I think Jake Paul is someone that's creating a lot of opportunity for himself and using sport as the anchor for it. And would I watch it? No. And do I value it? No. But when I'm asked to be confronted with a fight between two legends' sons and then get involved in all of the nonsense that goes...
Simon Jordan also criticized the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. fight, arguing that its promotion relied heavily on nostalgia rather than genuine sporting merit. He said it was being sold on the legacy of their father's iconic 1990s rivalry instead of the fighters' own accomplishments. Jordan accused promoters of exploiting history to disguise the competitive imbalance, especially with Ben moving up in weight and Eubank Jr. cutting down dangerously. Similarly, he argued that Joshua versus Paul is a blatant cash grab rather than a serious contest, a mismatch that undermines boxing's integrity. He questioned whether such a fight should even be sanctioned, voicing concerns for Paul's safety and warning that Joshua's legacy could suffer long-term damage.
The kind of returns that they're going to get for the level that they've operated in their careers. And that's one of my issues around the Conor Benn Eubank fight. This fight over here with Anthony Joshua, I know what this is. No one can dress this up. This is a turd that will get polished into a huge pile of money. But you know that from the outset.
Yeah.
So I don't have any illusions about it. Neither does anybody else. Nobody thinks that this is a real fight. Nobody thought. I mean, Spencer tried his very level best and will never try it again to convince us that Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Well, this is something similar
Yeah.
for different reasons. Anthony Joshua is still a live heavyweight. And if he hits Jake Paul's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And some people might think that's a good thing to happen to him to learn his lesson. But he is also now fighting. He's got a fighter's license. And the question should be along the lines of what Chris Eubank Sr. was raising. Is it right? Is this appropriate that a high-performing supreme athlete like Anthony Joshua, whose only real challenges now are probably in his mind, because physically he can operate at the highest level if he still chose to, should be stepping in against someone like Jake Paul that does not have the skill set to deal with the kind of power and expertise that Anthony Joshua has? And should boxing be sanctioning this? This is the bigger question.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Having said all that, Netflix tell us 60 million households worldwide tuned in live to see Mike Tyson take on Jake Paul. Why would Jake Paul end up fighting?
Adding to the debate, boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. offered a more cautious perspective on the Joshua versus Paul matchup. He emphasized that the fight must make sense for Joshua, both competitively and financially.
Change subjects just a little bit here, and Anthony Joshua, there's rumors circulating he could be fighting Jake Paul next. One, do you think it's good for boxing? And two, do you think the fight will happen?
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in to these boxing careers late. So why not? He's a perfect guy to take him out too. He took Ngannou out. Why would he not take Jake Paul out? And for him, he'd probably make more money fighting Jake Paul than he will fight anybody else that he can fight right now. So why would he not do it? I mean, not that he needs the money right now anyway, but he's going to do something if he want to get a good win to put him back on the scene. That's perfect.
Dave Farrar and Spencer Oliver discuss a rising public debate over a potential Joshua versus Paul fight, which intensified after Saudi boxing chief Turki Al-Sheikh hinted at approving the bout during a TalkSport appearance at Wembley. Al-Sheikh confirmed that Paul has verbally accepted the fight and expressed his desire to see Joshua dismantle him in a one-sided mismatch, calling it a win-win test of legitimacy for both sides.
Does he really want to smoke? I mean, he's got to be an idiot if he does, because Anthony Joshua, let's use this as a comparison. Francis Ngannou called Anthony Joshua out after pushing Tyson Fury the way that he did, and he looked at that and he went in there and he iced him in 2 rounds. Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul, you got to go heavily on Francis Ngannou, haven't you? So what's going to happen to poor Jake Paul if he boxes Anthony Joshua, this Olympic gold?
Mike Coppinger has voiced major concerns about the proposed fight, arguing that Paul appears motivated more by a massive payday than competitive legitimacy. Coppinger reports that negotiations are progressing, but still face significant obstacles, including broadcasting deals and sanctioning approval. He emphasized that Joshua represents an enormous jump in size, power, and elite experience compared to anyone Paul has faced, making the matchup potentially dangerous. While commercial interest may push the fight forward, he warned it raises serious questions about Paul's safety, credibility, and the integrity of the event.
Breaking story on Ring Magazine. Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul are finalising a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell the Ring Magazine's Mike Coppinger. What do you make of that?
Well, Anthony Joshua is talking about wanting warm-up fights before going into bigger fights, but look, it's prize fighting at the end of the day, and the way that Joshua will see it and Matchroom and all the team. The fans won't like this, by the way.
I don't like it
No,
either.
I don't like it either. But
I
the
don't
way
like
that
it
Joshua
at all.
see it is as a money grab. He'll see it as an easy money grab. But at this stage of his career, is it a fight he should be taking? Nah, definitely not.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be licensed. Because
Meanwhile, Paul's promoter Nikisa Badarian responded to concerns regarding the size difference between Paul and Joshua, stating, "Size-wise, we can get comfortable with it." With Paul reportedly weighing between 210 and 215 pounds, and Joshua near 252 pounds, Badarian argued that Paul's strength and rapid development make the fight feasible. He highlighted Paul's recent heavyweight experience against Mike Tyson, saying his growth in the ring boosts their confidence. Across the boxing world, however, many professionals remain worried about the legitimacy, safety, and long-term consequences of this matchup. Though some acknowledge the commercial upside, few consider it a credible contest.
Taken, and 2 of his losses are against Alexander Usyk. Usyk weighed in at 220 pounds for those fights. Jake is not Usyk, a lot more years of experience needed to get to that level, but Jake walks around between 208 and 210, and he fought Mike Tyson at 228 pounds. So I think size-wise, we can get comfortable with it, and I think experience-wise, Jake is learning very fast and growing, and Joshua is a little long in the tooth. So it could be a very interesting matchup, and we're actively discussing it with Matchroom.
Don't put it past Jake Paul. Anthony Joshua, as much as he's a monster, he's got a weak mind, hasn't he? So Jake could end up getting into it because Jake's got everyone eating out the palm of his hand. He's a very clever man. So
you really think he's got a chance?
Why wouldn't he have a chance? Look how confident he is. Mate, come on. Like, Anthony would have all the pressure in the world, and if Anthony didn't do him with the first few punches, he'd start doubting himself in his head, because that's what he does. But no, Anthony should win, shouldn't he? But that's
what do you make of Tyson Fury saying that he's going to put $1 million bet on Jake winning by knockout?
Tyson to leg it, lad. He's retired about 50 times. What's he on about, mate? Just tell him to leg it, and I'd love him. If he walked in here, I'd obviously...
At one point, you were good friends.
I'm still good friends, but obviously if he walked in here, I'd act like I'm not talking about him, but then on the camera I'm talking, so is this not what we're on?
Fair enough.
Is everyone not fake, or no? We all... What are we on here? Are we all acting like we don't hate each other? Like, come on. Like, what?
You're on absolute smoke today.
Former world champion George Groves has also dismissed the idea of Joshua fighting Paul, saying it has no sporting value. He believes Joshua deserves meaningful fights against legitimate contenders, not crossover spectacles. Groves labeled the matchup low risk and low legacy, insisting Joshua should either retire or wait for a mega fight with Tyson Fury, the only bout he feels truly matters for Joshua's legacy.
Still trying to convince people that he's a legitimate boxer. He's not a legitimate boxer. You've picked someone who was a professional boxer, whose dad was a legend of professional boxing. You might as well pick.
The potential clash between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul reflects the modern struggle within boxing, the conflict between genuine sporting competition and commercial entertainment. For Joshua, it offers a massive payday and a chance to return to global prominence after recent setbacks. For Paul, it is the biggest gamble of his career, an opportunity to prove he can stand with an elite fighter or a moment that exposes the limits of a resume built on celebrity.
Jake Paul, you've lost your mind if you think you can go toe-to-toe with Anthony Joshua. Listen, let's not get confused, guys. Let's not get confused. Yes, cool. Anthony, he took a big L with Daniel Dubois. But Daniel Dubois is not no joke, bro. He's not a joke. You know what I'm trying to say? He took an L there, but Jake Paul, I got the utmost respect of what he's done, how he's managed to navigate through the boxing world. Like, bro, it's so mad. And I can see this is like a 90%. It's happening, it's positioning, it's marketing already. Like, why would you see Jake Paul go face to face with Alexander Usyk if it's not to position for a fight for Saudi? Obviously, Jake Paul's gonna fight Anthony Joshua. There's possibly gonna be a Usyk against Tyson Fury 3 because obviously the last 2 were so close. But you never know. It can also be a Usyk against Derek Chisora